The NFL weekend is great. I think the Titans have a chance to pull an upset on the road. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But you know what? Like, I don't know. It's a wonderful time to be alive, Zach. That's all.
Can't disagree. Can't disagree.
So part of my let's get right into the matchup here, of course, because there's so much to discuss with this Titans-Browns game that I find utterly fascinating. We will get to Deshaun Watson, of course, not being a good quarterback since, sexually assaulting 22 people. Like, basically, since that moment, he has not been a good quarterback. The Titans have been very lucky in their rushing defense. They missed Alvin Kamara. They missed Austin Eckler. Now they're going to miss Nick Chubb, which is very interesting, just as a point of fact. You've got special teams that seem to be better than they've been in a long time. The offense is creative.
Is better than everything else. Still stinks.
Well, I'm going to ask you about special teams. So these are all the things I want to ask you about: first down passing, trench warfare, the offensive line, the usage of the weapons on offense. I got so much stuff I want to ask you. So I want to start with, how much do you put into the short week, the rest, the emotion, the injury to Nick Chubb? I thought Jerome Ford, by the way, was a big-time recruit who went to Alabama. He then transferred from Alabama, went to Cincinnati, and was very, very good, and he was good on Monday night. How much do you think it matters, the short week packaged with a pretty emotional game against Pittsburgh where you lose your star and a really disgusting injury? How much of that is a factor this weekend?
I think it depends on the player in the locker room. Probably not a big factor for Myles Garrett, but probably a really big factor for Deshaun Watson, who's already not mentally there. He's just he's got a blank, stare on his face. He's all up in his head. The outside noise is getting to him. He seems to be someone that would short week, bad game, 2 turnovers that turned into touchdowns for the other team. Just so much going on in Deshaun Watson's head. This seems like it would affect him. It's not good, obviously, for a team to see an injury and a comrade go down like that. But it's also, in the NFL, most players have preached, you have to have a short memory. You have to move on. There's a difference between have to and actually doing so. But I feel like most players they know, right? They know this is a part of the game, and probably have seen similar injuries that have happened throughout their college career to the professional career, depending on who they are. So I don't think it's a factor for everybody in the locker room, but I definitely think the performance from the offensive performance on Monday night and the previous week, that is weighing heavily on a team that is just kind of skating by.
Yeah. So you said you called him his comrade. So does that make Deshaun Watson a Russian communist as well as a serial assaulter?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. That's good.
I'll let you slander Deshaun Watson and put on any label, true or not.
All you have to say on a podcast to get away with it legally is just say, I believe he's a Russian spy. I believe he's a sexual serial assaulter. I believe he's played some shitty ass football since getting accused of all of those things.
Yeah.
In 2 games. Now, I know they beat Cincinnati in week 1. In 2 games, 55% completion percentage, less than 200 yards per game, 69 quarterback rating, 2 total touchdowns. The Browns offense has turned the ball over 6 times, 5.6 yards per attempt. He's just not
including
he's not
last year's stats, right?
That's just in 2 games.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You add in, since he's become a Brown, and because this is technically, he's now played 8 games, if I'm not mistaken. So he's played half a season, right? And then, there is a big break in between that, but he's definitely played half a season.
Sure.
And he's been just absolutely garbage. And it gives me life. It's like a UT loss in the swamp. It just nurses the soul.
It's like losing to Ole Miss at home in Tuscaloosa. Just nurses the soul.
And it's also great for the fact, not only is a horrible human getting what he deserves, and a franchise that paid a horrible human getting what they deserve, and a fan base that continue to support a horrible human getting what they deserve, but it's also the national media who is already, after a year, just washing all the sins away of Deshaun Watson and picking this team to be Super Bowl dark horses.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, did you not even watch football? Everybody, here's the thing. Good Deshaun Watson was 3 freaking years ago. good Deshaun Watson, near elite Deshaun Watson is not coming back. It's just a state of the fact. Like, it's not coming back.
Yeah.
And people got to realize that and quit like clinging. Sometimes recency bias is a good thing, but also sometimes taking into account that something was 3 years ago. It's like people who keep saying, well, Lamar Jackson was MVP, unanimous MVP. Okay, that was like 2019. We're in 2023. Let's get real.
No, I agree. And Stoney backs you up there. Jordan Pace, interesting question. The 1-1 start to 2023 being more like 2021 versus last year is an interesting discussion. Mm-hmm. The Chargers win is so similar to the win at Seattle. That was the Julio Jones game, of course, in overtime. Big plays on both sides, but a comeback and game winner from a veteran kicker. What do you think about that? I think that's an interesting point to make when you compare the 1-1 start, because I think there's a lot of things to really like about this team. And I still think there are some questions that we had in the summer that I still have today after 2 games, in particular the offensive line. But like, I think there's a lot. I'm part of the reason I'm in a good mood is I'm just like, I think there's more reasons for optimism.
Look at you.
Well, but here's the other thing. I think we are in a year, and maybe you and I have talked about this. I don't remember because I do a lot of shows. But I think we are in a defensive year in the NFL and in college football. Some of that in college football is the offensive lines are bad, the quarterbacks are bad, but I think defenses have had 8 years to study RPO, this stuff that's been very prevalent in college football and pro football for the last 10 years. And I think we're seeing like a lot of these star quarterbacks in the NFL are struggling. And if you are built like the Titans, that's a good year. If you're going to play a bunch of rock fights, Titans are pretty comfortable in a rock fight, and I think this weekend is going to be a big old massive rock fight.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I had this weird feeling that I think the Titans aren't going to be in a rock fight, and like I can see why people think that because of the Browns' defense and what it has shown, and quite frankly, what the Titans' offensive line has shown. But for whatever reason, I just have this sneaking suspicion that like the Browns defense is kind of a mirage. And I'd like to dive into this just real quick and I'm going to try not to go stat heavy too much. But when they're on defense, when Cleveland is on defense last year, they were 25th in overall EPA. They are now 2nd. That seems like a mirage. They were 32nd in rush EPA. Now they're 7th. That seems like a mirage to me. That seems like something that like that's the benefit of the schedule. Now you can only play who's on your schedule. But when you jump from overall success rate allowed, you go from 22nd worst to number 1 in a span of a year.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem and all they really added was Dalvin Tomlinson. Like they didn't add anybody really big. And to me, it seems like the benefit of playing the Bengals and the Steelers more than it is that the defense is really good. Now, maybe Trey Schwartz is that good, but it seems to me this could be a little bit of a mirage that everybody needs to take notice of.
Couple questions. AVing says, no one in the national media watches football. I am convinced. As someone in the national media, here's what I would say. And because he said, they literally said this week the Titans have a bad rushing defense. Here's what I would say. As someone in the national media, I don't watch any of that stuff. I don't consume any of that stuff. If you care about the Titans, you listen to Zach, and you listen to Mike, and you listen to me, and you listen to PK, and you listen to the stuff that's here at practice covering the team every day. I don't get sucked in. Don't take the bait. We've covered that way too many times. So I'm not calling you out, AV. I'm just saying that's an observation there. Ed says, can they deploy an 8-man front on offense to keep Tannehill alive as we build our win? Brought to you by the Kingston Group. We will explain what their offensive strategy should be. Tim says, sounds like a perfect year for exotic smash mouth. Yes, that might be true. Here's what I will say about the Browns defense. And I think Mike Vrabel said this at his press conference. 25 snaps so far in 2 games on defense in which the opponent was in 2nd and 8 or longer, which means they, in 25 first down snaps, they have won that down. And what do we know about the Titans' new offense under Tim Kelly? They have a 13+% change in run-pass balance on first down. They are a 50-50 team.
And they're really good on first down.
They're 50-50 right now. That number was 63% run under Todd Downing. That's a 13% change in the number of times they are throwing the football on first down. Something you and everyone else, not in the national media, in the local media, has been saying. But the Browns have been dominant on first down. So you can, I'm not saying that your point about, Kenny Pickett and maybe, bum ankled Joe Burrow, the conditions, that's all true. It doesn't change the fact that I think the point of their success comes from holding you to 2 or less yards on first down 25 times in 2 games. Think about how many first downs you have in a game. That's almost all of them.
Yeah.
So it is going to come down to the Titans' game plan on first down versus the Cleveland Browns' win rate on first down. I think that's where I think it's a rock fight, because we got 2 things right now that I think are both very solid.
Yeah, to me, it's there's ways to beat this defense that nobody has tested yet. If you look at the Bengals and look at the Steelers, now this is something that I'm kind of flipping on from Football and Other F Words.
Just from yesterday?
Just from yesterday, because I've looked at some advanced stats. So
don't you know it's 2023? You're not allowed to change your opinion.
No, that. So I was looking at yesterday, and I was like, I don't know if they're going to use a lot of play action, because you don't really want your back turned to Myles Garrett, right? So here's what I found out, is that the Steelers only used play action 5 times.
How many drops?
Cincinnati Bengals.
Do you know how many dropbacks by any chance?
That is, hold on, I have it written down. I just have 15.6%.
No, that's not very many. Yeah.
No. So 18.2% of the Bengals dropbacks, which is 11, were play action. I want to dive into what Myles Garrett does on play action. When he's lined up over on the left side, lined up over the left tackle, interesting stat, doesn't matter if it's play action or not, he has 0 sacks over on that side. His lone sack come on a 4th down play against the Bengals over on the right side, lined up over the right tackle, which I just thought was just incidental. Like, when you think about the Bengals highlight,
what was that word?
It doesn't matter. When you think about the Bengals highlights, you remember that he's like putting the ball in between his legs and all that kind of stuff. So you're thinking, if you're not watching the game and you don't go back and look at the stats, I left that highlight in an impression with, well, he's probably got like 2 or 3 sacks on the Bengals, and he came away with just 1. Now he's got a lot of pressures, because sacks aren't everything. If I just thought it was an interesting thing.
And remember, that clip you're talking about he was head up on the center.
Yeah,
which again is just part of how they use him in a very creative way,
right.
which was going to be one of my questions, because I want to talk play action as well. And so the Titans were 7 of 9 for 168 yards on play action. Tannehill had 24 pass attempts, probably a few more. What did he have? A couple sacks, so probably like 28 dropbacks, maybe, give or take, maybe 30. So they're running at about 30% clip.
It was like 31%, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so about 1/3 of the time they're running play action. So they're clearly running it more than both Pittsburgh and Cincinnati did against Cleveland. And I'm interested in what led to your change, because
I was trying to get to there. You
cut
me off.
Well, we're just having a conversation.
Well, here's what led to my change, is the fact that on play action plays, he only has one when he's lined up over the left side. So that's Dan Moore, who is probably a worse left tackle than Andre Dillard. I bet any Pittsburgh fan would agree. And then who's the left tackle over in the Bengals? I'm not entirely sure who that is over there, but he had a field day too. But either way, he's lined up 39 times over the left tackle and left guards, but specifically the left tackle, right? On play action plays, which he's only been tested 8 times when he's lined up over the left tackle, 8 times. So we're talking about 50% of the play action plays he's seen, he's lined up over on the left side.
Okay.
One pressure, 0 sacks, just 1 pressure, and that's a QB hurry, not even a QB hit. So now I've changed my mind into thinking the Titans really thrive off play action, and now I'm not necessarily afraid that that Tannehill puts his back towards him, that it's something bad is automatically going to happen. Not to say that he won't affect plays.
Sure.
Not to say that he won't get his, because listen, he's on a drought. He hasn't gotten a sack over on the left side, and he's only got 1 sack through 2 games. He's going to get some sacks. He's going to eat. He's going to get his, I feel like. But I think play action will neutralize the entire defense that Tim Kelly talked about that has speed. And the entire defense has speed. And I think play action is going to give you half a second longer than what you would have, and that half a second matters.